tell, and I'm not really tracking time, so I'm not going to rush or whatever, but I did want to give you guys an idea sort of where we are now, because I was completely convinced over the weekend and into yesterday that we were looking to go even today with our start, and had been some indications that were pointing that way, and then we get into today a little bit more and we find out, okay, this is still going on. We may have to wait, another day or so, and that's kind of where we are. So the situation starting with Iraq, we had heard that tomorrow is D-Day for Iraq, and that term meaning that Iraq is supposed to, we're going to say supposed to, put the budget, which was approved and was all over Iraqi TV Saturday. Gosh, today's Tuesday. I haven't talked to you guys since Thursday, have I? The budget that was passed was put all over Iraqi TV on Saturday, and that budget still needs to show up. By the way, Saturday was a formality for the budget. It had been passed like 2 weeks ago today. So that budget itself was just sitting around waiting for a final reading or some kind of formality on Saturday, and it was handled, but it still didn't go in the Gazette Saturday, which we kind of thought it might. But here it is coming up. Tomorrow's Wednesday. I've been told by people in Fallujah that they expect it to go into the Gazette tomorrow. So we'll see if that's what happens. If that happens, we think that the rate of the dinar should come out and be known publicly tomorrow as well. And there had been a little bit of a blackout yesterday in information coming out of Iraq, so not quite sure what was going on with that, but we can expect that some things were going on behind the scenes. In addition to, so Iraq is looking to be, I'm going to call it internationally known tomorrow with a rate, with the Gazette. Then notice that tomorrow, generally, the Gazette comes out, I believe it's like right after first morning prayer. It makes it out in print edition on Saturdays and Wednesdays. And so if that's the case, that's like late tonight. It could be anywhere from now to midnight, let's say, Eastern time tonight. That would be happening Iraq time in Baghdad. So that's interesting how we could find out something about it tonight, but we're not really sure. But that's good about that. And the other thing about Iraq is their lower denominations were being discussed also in the how to use the lower denoms on Iraqi TV. I believe that was today and yesterday, I believe. I'm not sure if it was yesterday, but I know it was today. So Iraq has their lower denominations out and, to the best of my knowledge, in use. Okay? So when that happens, for you to use lower denoms, like we would have, let's say, 5s, 10s, 20s, and so on, you have to have a rate change to make that work. And they've had the rate change several times inside Iraq on their key cards, and I believe that is the rates that we have seen over the last few days came up. Actually, Saturday came up from a very good rate. Saturday morning, an hour and 10 minutes later, it's $1 plus higher than it was. So it's moving obviously in the right direction, and we have a couple of guys, for example, that we know that are trading Iraqi dinar futures as well as other currencies and other things that they are seeing like 9 different currencies fluctuating on their screens now as they're trading tonight. And then they saw, like an hour later, it went to 15 different currencies. So what the person told my main clearinghouse source was that things are really popping, and it looks like we're having a trading, just a big, huge trading situation going on tonight. And that was going to be in 3 or 4 hours. It would be probably about now that was taking place. It was called a trading frenzy. So he was expecting to see a trading frenzy tonight, starting approximately now on the screens. So much so that this particular individual said he would not be surprised if the Forex, these rates showed up on the Forex overnight tonight. And that would be a very good thing for us because, we've always talked about when the rates hit the Forex, blah, 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 we're ready to go. We have also heard that the Forex could populate and show up after we start, too. We've heard it that way as well. But realize this, there is a lot of activity going on. So in terms of the rates, I can just tell you that multiple currencies are moving and are being added to the screen as they're coming in. It would not surprise me if the dinar was one of those that was active, because we know it's being traded as a future, and we expect it to be actively traded tonight and overnight. So that would be great at the regular rates that would be in the Gazette, and that would also be in the budget as well. So I'm looking forward to activity overnight as far as that goes. The other thing we know that's going on in the country is that we have activity going on out west, where certain groups have been summoned to come to the towns in out west, and they've been summoned there, and certain groups, and they're in a position now, my understanding was, where they were starting to pay some of those groups out today. I don't know how far along that is. I don't know if people that are in certain groups, core groups and so on, have received any indication of payment yet, but we believe we've heard of a few confirmations of that. So I think that's happening and should happen and continue to happen into tomorrow as well. Let's go to redemption centers for a moment. When I talk about the redemption centers, sometimes we talk in terms of staffing. I know the staffing was set to go heavy duty yesterday and today with full at the redemption centers for Zim at full staff. Tomorrow is set at a staff rate that is also very high. And then what happens is if this were to go, for example, tomorrow morning, for example, the staffing could be increased to cover any new start time or any demand to increase that. I know security has increased and is really at a very high rate for the redemption centers. So that's a good thing and a good indicator, I think, of the proximity. Let's see. When it comes to the timing, some places may go 24/7 on the redemption centers, and some may just have a daytime and an afternoon type shift. It may not go into the night. Just depends on the demographics, depends on the area, and whether or not they feel they need to cover the exchanges, or in this case, the redemption of the Zim. All right. Now, there's been a lot of chatter out there. We've gotten a few emails from people. I just want you guys to know that I'm aware of it. And I'm also aware that there's quite a bit of information out there that I do not agree with, that you guys know. You've heard me say certain things. Other people have said different things. I can tell you without any equivocation that there is no limit on the amount of currency that you can exchange any currency. There's no limit. There is also no cap or limit on Zim. Beware that we have checked, and double-checked, And we know this to be true because a lot of the people that we talk to, meaning the Big Call team that we talk to, are involved in Zim tabletop meetings and swaps in Europe and other countries at a very high level. We're very aware that they have not been limited. There's no limit to it. So you don't have to worry about that. The Zim is a bond. No zeros are coming off. The rates are fair, very fair. And if you're using a Zim redemption center, the main thing you have to be concerned with is, are you going to use a portion of this exchange for humanitarian projects? Because if you are, you let them know what percentage you wish to apply for humanitarian projects, and that's what goes into your structured payout. Okay, you can have more. You could take all of your exchange and put it in a structured payout, but let's say you had 90% that you want to use for humanitarian projects and 10% for personal. That 90% in your structured payout, that could be 10, 20, 30 years to pay it out. You'd be paid quarterly interest on that. That comes out to you for your humanitarian projects. And the point I'm trying to make is that you can designate whatever percentage you want for humanitarian or for personal use. There's no definitive 80-20, 50-50, or any of that some of the groups had to go through, okay? In our situation, we designate how much we want to use for humanitarian efforts, and the rest, we can use for our personal use, okay? So that's the way that is set up. There's also some interesting stuff about taxation that most people don't know about yet. I'm just finding out about it tonight. So I'm not going to go into it, but it's going to be very good news for us. Very good news for you, okay? First of all, it's not a taxable event anyway. The only thing that's going to be taxable would be your earnings on, your interest earnings on the money. And what I'm hearing tonight that I have to get more information about is even some of those earnings in the structured payout may not be a taxable event to you. Now, that's the ones for humanitarian projects. Even though you would earn money and get paid quarterly on the interest that you'd earn, the latest information I got, and this was from IRS, that we got, the new IRS, by the way, was that that income, if you will, earned in that structured payout used for humanitarian projects would not be taxable. Now, realize this. I'm going to put a disclaimer out there. I am not a CPA. I'm not an attorney. I don't play either one on TV or radio. This is just the information I'm passing on. Let's let it stay at that. We'll find out more information as this thing progresses. But I just wanted you to know that's a very positive thing that's been put in place. And I have to thank our administration for having done that, okay? For having set that up that way. Now, the other thing is that I did mention there are no caps, no limits, no zeros coming off. They know how much we have. There's enough money to cover it. There's enough gold out there to back it all up. All of that's been thought out. And believe it or not, there are not as many Zim holders as you would think. And now a lot of people have been gifted, and it's hard to keep up with everybody, in terms of who was gifted 1 note or 3 notes or whatever. I know that, but they do have a formula, and they have calculated sort of roughly what that looks like. So keep that in mind. I don't care if you got rupiah, if you've got dong, you've got dinar, or anything that is exchangeable, you will not be limited on that. Okay, now, We know this because we're talking to people daily that are involved in these exchanges. Redemption Center personnel, other people that are exchanging and redeeming Zim at the high level, highest of levels, and so I can feel very confident in giving you that information. All right? And so, in terms of what else is happening, I can tell you this. The World Bank, the IMF, and China and the United States have been meeting for the last few days, deciding what percentages and disbursements to make to various countries throughout the world. And as of yesterday evening, we had 6 countries to go. We had Italy, we had Spain, had Iran, had Brazil, we had Venezuela, and we had North Korea to go. There were 6 countries. And then I watched how one by one they were handled last night. And the 3 that were handled last night before it was too late was Italy was handled, Spain was handled, and Iran was handled. And then today, the other 3 current countries remained until, I think, this morning at about 9:45, and I believe everything was signed off by that time. Okay? That's our best information as far as that goes. Now, with the sources we do have U.S. Treasury sources. We do get information sometimes from the Secretary of the Treasury and also the Undersecretary of the Treasury. This last bit of information was that as a result of that signing, we came into a 48-hour window that started at 10 a.m. this morning. Well, anybody can figure out 48 hours from 10 a.m. this morning on Tuesday, but we did hear the possibility that we may not have to run out the entire 48 hours. So, I'm going to say we got that possibility. Doesn't mean I'm calling it. All it means is that we're in a window where it appears that those countries have been handled, and tomorrow is D-Day for Iraq. Hopefully that happens tonight or overnight tonight. And those rates are put out and the budget is seen in the Gazette. That'd be a very positive thing for us. And hopefully some core groups get paid tonight. And hopefully we see the toll-free numbers being issued to me so that I can put those out as soon as they are received. Now, I consider it an honor to be selected as one who will have the toll-free numbers to put out to the Internet group, the Tier 4. Realize this, when I get them, I'll put them out immediately, and you'll look to the BigCall.net website, and then also I think we'll have Bob send out emails to anybody who is registered on our newest site, which is BigCallUniverse.com. Okay, if you're not registered yet on BigCallUniverse.com, go ahead and do that so we'll have your email. Okay, so beware of that. I know there's probably a lot of other things I could throw out there, but I'm going to say, be confident. The biggest thing that's going to influence the rate that you would negotiate for your Zim, for example, and Dong and Dinar, is your so-called dog and pony show. Your ability to convey what it is you plan to do from a humanitarian perspective. And I know I haven't given you guys a lot of details on Rebuild America, but the biggest keys in Rebuild America is we want people all over the country to adopt a city, a town, or a community, or all 3, like I'm going to do, and then we will set up a template of ideas for you in what you can do to get that started where you live. I'm not asking for any money. I'm not wanting any of your money. I want you guys to do what I'm going to do, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with a template and give you an idea, okay, this is first thing we want to do is build a team and so on to do a number of things. But we're going to do all that so that you guys can go on the website and be able to see what it is we're doing throughout the country. And of course, some of that website building has to take place still because we're in its infancy on some of that. We're going to spend time on that. And you're going to be part of it if you want to be. This is something you can choose to be part of in your particular neck of the woods. Okay, it's up to you. But I would love, initially I said, we want to make a difference in 5,000 cities, towns, or communities throughout the country. And that's because I wanted 5,000 listeners. 50 states, 100 cities or towns in each state comes up with 5,000. Now, we don't need to do maybe quite that much in Hawaii, maybe not quite that much in Alaska, but overall, an average of 100 or more, obviously, or more cities in this country per state would be, I think we could make a dent. You take that and you add some infrastructure on fiber optics, you add infrastructure